And the problem with social media is she doesn't even have that lifestyle.
Right.
It's fake. It's not even real. Like meaning she may not have the money for it. Their marriage may be falling apart. Like, I want her life. And if you saw the whole 360 picture, like a lot of people putting the best foot forward, no, you actually would not want to trade places.
Woo! This is John with the Dr. John Delony Show. I'm so glad you were with us on the greatest mental health and marriage and emotional health and parenting podcast that's ever existed. YouTube show. However you're finding us, we're glad you are here. On today's show, we have a very special guest. My friend, New York Times bestselling author, #1 bestselling author all over the place. YouTube sensation. I don't know all the nice things I could say about her. Kind of my boss, actually. She's an owner of the company where I work. The incomparable Miss Rachel Cruze. And Miss Rachel Cruze, her and her husband are great friends of me and my wife. We hang out. We do live events all over the country together. We have conversations behind closed doors about things like parenting, what our kids are experiencing, being a mom, being a dad, being a husband, being a wife. And we talk about comparison. We compare theological things. Things just get heavy. And so on this show, we kind of go all over the place and talk about some hard, heavy things, some hard discussions about comparison, about being a mom, about mom guilt, all of it. We have lots to discuss. We go all over the place, and I'm glad that you get to hear this conversation. So buckle up, put your headphones in, turn up a little bit louder. You may want to slow it down a little bit because I talk way too fast. So they say in the internet comments. Please enjoy my conversation with one of my great friends, Miss Rachel Cruze. Thanks for coming.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
You're like super in demand. You're real famous, and you joined me on
not
my
really.
on my
Fame's
show.
not real. That's not real.
It's for sure real.
Mm-mm.
Yes, I've traveled with you all over the country. It's for sure real.
Mm-mm.
Yeah, man. People behind you like, oh my gosh, is that Rachel Cruze?
And everyone's like, John Delony.
Yeah, they don't do that. They're like, hey, is that Rachel Cruze? All right, so a couple things I want to talk about today. Probably have some conversations that you haven't had on other shows. That was kind of my goal.
Perfect.
But more importantly, I like it when a podcast kind of drops in on a conversation between two friends that sounds like we just showed up while they were having coffee. And you and I have done that all over the country. And so
Yep.
Here's where I want to start. So you and I did this marriage event. And you and I have done it multiple times. And this time people came. It was like a weekend retreat.
Yep.
And there was a bunch of people there from all over the country, all different walks of life, engaged, about to get divorced, to we've been married 34 years,
Yes.
we're millionaires, and we just want to see what's next for us.
Totally.
I think to a person, everybody walked away from that thing, us included, like something magical happened there.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's rare in our world, right?
Yep,
We
do these
travel,
events all the time. And they're
Right.
great.
Of course.
And they're all
of course.
awesome.
But there's always like you do a tour and there's like this particular city was just magic.
Yes.
And I don't know. I don't know why. It was just an energy,
Yep.
whatever. But this was so special and unique. And so I've spent so much time just while I'm walking in the woods, just trying to figure out what was so rad about that weekend. And one of the things you and I have talked about that I want to unpack a little bit is this. One of the special gifts to the audience is that, or in that event, was I hide my wife. You hide Winston over time, or really they hide from what we do. And so one of the cool things was they showed up.
Yes.
They came out on stage.
Yes.
And it was supposed to be like a fun give for the audience. And look at this, y'all got to finally meet them. They're real.
Mm-hmm.
And Sheila's beautiful. And Winston's a smoke show. And like, here's them.
Mm-hmm.
When I reflect back on it and you reread the feedback, that was some of the most powerful. That was one of the most powerful hours of the entire weekend.
Yes. Yes.
And as you and I have discussed, I think it comes from this place where they could look at you and Winston. You are a co-owner of a multi-hundreds of million-dollar company. Your husband is extremely successful, very talented. Y'all both work really hard, and y'all have vast resources. And then you look over, and there's me and Sheila on the other two chairs, and we have 3 PhDs and 2 master's degrees between us. And I think there was a humanity to you and Winston saying, no, marriage is real hard. Mm-hmm. We're having to figure this thing out. Where do you think that illusion comes from? So that's a long setup to ask this question. Where do you think this illusion comes from that if we just had this,
everything would be okay?
Everything would be okay. And it could be money. It could be all the answers. It could be all the training. It could be all the resource. Where does that come from?
I don't know. I do feel like specifically with us, maybe, and I could be off base on this.
Us or you and Winston?
Sorry, us.
Okay.
And our jobs is cameras and microphones, TVs, radio. Like there is a level of a platform there. And I do think with anyone, maybe except for like Hollywood or something, but you do look at people on, and I do this for people too. I like look at it. I look at them, whether it's social media or whatever, and I just think, oh my gosh, okay, they look happy for the most part, right? Like I know they're real people, but like my struggle is like, ooh, 30%, 40% of the time or whatever. Theirs is, they probably have some, but theirs is probably like 5% of the time. And whatever that game is that I play, I associate when I see people that I admire or respect or have helped me personally. I think, oh gosh, they're doing great. I know they're human, so I know there's a percentage of them that struggles, but it can't be the same percentage that I struggle. And I think it's that barrier of like putting someone to a degree on a pedestal. And not that people do that with us all the time. I'm not saying like we're on this big pedestal platform, but there has to be something about this difference because I don't feel that way with like my good friends, right? But it's enough of a
Is it because you know them?
Yeah, and I guess you just see their humanity more on a daily basis. And I just don't think we have the opportunity to do that all the time, right? Like I think about for me, I'm like, I have 3, quick episodes a week. I'm on the Rams. Like my time in front of people is so limited.
And it's curated.
And it's curated
right?
to a degree.
This
because
is
I'm
as
like,
good
I'm
as
not,
we can look.
Yeah, and I try to be human on it. I
Of
try
course,
not to like put on a complete fake face, but I'm like, but I'm not going to pull up my phone in the middle of a fight with Winston and be like, I just need you guys to see. Like, I'm like, that's so inappropriate. Like, I would never, that's so crazy. So there is something to me that I will put, even me, a percentage on people's struggle and say, but surely it's less than mine.
Ooh, I need to put a pin in that. Surely it's less than mine because that'll be an important conversation later on. When we talk about comparison.
So I don't know if that answers your question.
It does.
But there's just something about that. I think it's a distance thing. Maybe it's a resource thing. I don't know.
I wonder if it's hard to be in our own skin. And it's just easy to look and go, I feel this way. Surely they don't.
Right.
And
yes.
So how do I get from here to there? And the world, if you just scroll Instagram, it's like, well, you have to have money and you have to buy this thing and you have to have this thing and you have to have this thing and you got to go get this information or listen to this podcast, read this book. And it's almost, I remember the audience going, and it was almost freeing. Or not maybe almost, maybe it was completely freeing to go, oh, they don't have it all figured out either.
Yep.
We're okay.
Yes.
And that means we can all keep figuring this out.
Right. And I do wonder the dynamic of that on stage. You have both couples sitting there where usually, like the people I'm thinking in my head, it's the person. And I know they're married, but I'm not in a conversation with their spouse or I'm not watching that conversation happen. So I think there's like 2 pieces of the puzzle of like, oh wow, this is it. And I'll give kudos to our spouses. We're very honest.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
And they're very smart and they're,
And that vulnerability though too, I think gave that. There wasn't this like, oh gosh, we have to image management level of like.
You and I did not marry image managers.
No, we were not image managers that weekend, which I think is what brought some of the magic too.
Yeah.
Because, like.
So what makes marriage so hard? Like if you had to distill it down, I have an idea or two, but, and I'm not even talking about the nerd literature. Like what do you think it is?
I feel like what I've learned that I didn't realize, and I feel like my eyes have been open more in the last probably 24 months. I think 2019 was a hard year for us, and we started doing some work, and then we kind of like ramped it up even in the last year or two. And I just don't think I realized how much self-protection I brought into marriage.
Define self-protection.
Protecting myself, protecting my ego, my feelings, wanting to feel safe, all of it, without knowing it. That's what's waked me out about understanding myself. Is I'm like, all this is subconscious. It's not
like
your
body's protecting you. You don't even know.
Yeah, I'm like, oh yeah, and then you're, and then I'm sitting down with my therapist, and she'll say something, and she's like, yeah, well that's little Rachel, who is dying for this and this and this, and it's coming out in a 35-year-old body, and I was like. Really? Is that what that is? I'm like, I didn't even know that's what I was doing. And Winston, same way. And if he was sitting here, he would be very honest with that too. I'm like, there was something, again, not conscious, it was subconscious of like, I just have to protect myself. And that comes out sideways and in different ways. And in our marriage, it was caretaking. It was a level of codependence, all of that, where, again, not knowing that was happening. And then you end up in this like dysfunctional dance. And then you wake up and you're like, wait, this isn't healthy? Because I mean, it's kind of working. Like it's, as one therapist said, I heard, they were like, it works until it doesn't work.
Right, like alcohol and cocaine. They work great.
Yeah, it's great.
Until they kill you.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So I think part of marriage that is hard is we just bring in so much stuff, you can say from childhood or whatever, and we at the core of us we're trying to protect ourselves always to a degree.
So what have you found that you were trying to protect? What was your body trying to keep safe? And here's why I asked that question. I don't mean like deep, dark secrets. I'm saying you have identified this other person in marriage. You were my ride or die.
Yeah.
I'm all in. And that's a cognitive choice.
Yes.
I'm choosing you.
Yes.
Your body goes, oh no, right? And it kicks up the defense 24/7, 365. And it plays out for a decade that way.
Yeah.
Right? Until somebody at work laughs at your jokes, and suddenly your body goes, oh, we can bring our defenses down because she's safe or he's safe, or this thing happens or that thing happens, or the mailman knocked on the door and he's really attractive. You're like, oh my God.
The Christmas tree guy. 2 Christmases ago.
The Christmas tree guy, right? Whatever. Oh, it's a smoke show?
Literally, I was all like disheveled and I was like, oh, wow, you're actually a very good-looking Christmas tree decorator guy. Is this like, no, he was selling like lights. We didn't even go with their company. Sorry, company. But anyways.
But like, so what was your body protecting you from?
I think a level of not wanting to be hurt. So I can live in this, it sounds just like Pollyanna, and it's not that. It doesn't feel that shallow. I'm just naturally the glass is half full. Naturally.
It'll work out.
I'm always going to and everything's going to be okay. We're going to figure it out. And that mindset that has been drilled in, that I've found makes life better. Rachel, 15 in high school, if you get left out of something, it's okay. It's going to be fine. It's fine. Don't worry about that next week. Like I would always tell myself, it's going to be okay. It's going to be okay. So then when hard stuff in marriage happens, something that boils up that I actually needed to be like, what the is going on? I was like, you know what? It's going to be okay. It's going to be okay. And because I'm like, I don't want to feel that pain. I don't want to feel that hurt. I don't want to feel pain, hurt, loneliness, like all of those. I'm good. It's going to be okay. Because truthfully too, through most of like life, it has like, I got friendliest at Brentwood High School. I was, for the most part, it has played out until it starts to not. And you start to see, wow, this thing that brought me through that I thought was actually helping, I think in the long term, it harms you because there's parts of me that I think I did shut off to protect, to make it be okay. It's going to be okay.
And the only way to a deep, powerful marriage was going through that stuff that's not okay.
That's right. And it was intense. We had an intense season.
Yeah.
And yet it was the healthiest breaking that needed to happen for both of us. And that's the sick thing too, is I'm like, for Winston and I, again, I'm not telling secrets. If he was sitting here, he'd say the same thing. Where we both can lean in like codependent, where some people I think can lean very independent and protect themselves that way. We almost found the safety in each other to an unhealthy degree, which sounds funny in marriage, because in my head too, in marriage, no, it's all okay because you're married. You have this label of marriage over you. So all of this is fine.
Right.
Until you realize, oh my gosh, individually, I am not a healthy person. And Winston said this in Money and Marriage on the panel, but it's true. He was like, you can't, like if you're both C+ people, you can't have an A+ marriage. Like,
ooh, that's a good
like
line,
it doesn't average out like that. And so I think for us too, the protecting, oh, it's going to be fine. It's going to be fine. And couple that with a level of codependence that, like, if you're good, I'm good. Like, we're good. Like, life is good. We're good. Like, you live. And again, it's not like Winston and I were shallow people. We had good conversations. We were connected. We did therapy together, right? Yeah. Like, I mean, during some of this, and like, so when that's the other thing that kind of shocked my system is I was like, oh my gosh, A + B doesn't always equal C. My therapist said that to me, and I was like, it's so true. Like, you can love Jesus. You can do all the things here. You can both do self-work and to a degree and all this here.
And somebody leaves.
And still something happens.
Right.
Like, and that messed with me, John.
Because life isn't an algorithm, right?
Yes, and I wouldn't have said life's an algorithm if you asked Rachel 3 years ago. is life an algorithm? I'm like, no, stuff happens all the time.
Right.
But
But
again,
not to me.
But subconsciously, I thought, yeah, but if you're wise, and not that we're not going to make unwise decisions and
Sure,
expect, right?
sure.
There is a level of you where you put you sow to a degree, but also
Some years it just doesn't rain.
some years it doesn't happen.
Some years you plow the field,
Isn't
plan
that
it
wild,
perfectly,
though?
and there's no rain.
Yes.
Yeah.
So it's all of that.
Yeah.
Like
And so me and
it's
Sheila was
detangling all of that.
opposite, where hers, I very much had she's going to leave at any minute. And hers is very much independent.
Yes.
Hers was, he's going to leave at any minute, but she solved that by independence and list.
Yes.
And
No,
I
we're
solved
not
that
that-
I solved it by trying to hang on. And so we
Yes.
had this, like, it was amazing. And then we'd go, and this, when the Venn diagrams are crossed, right? Well, thanks for talking about that. I think there's this idea that, if you just do all the right things, marriage is perfect.
Right.
And if it's not perfect, then we need to scour the earth for all the right things. My aim is different now. And it is, I'm going to do all these things that I know in this moment to be right. And by the way, I've learned in the last 5 years. And before that, I learned different things. And before that, I had different things. And all of that brings me to a baseline that gives me a chance. Not that it guarantees an outcome. And I think there's something powerful about that outcome not being guaranteed.
Yeah.
Because then I got to keep showing up. And then I got to keep showing up, and that keeps me from getting complacent. It keeps me from just phoning it in. It keeps me every day looking at Sheila. Like this morning, I was like, how can I love you today?
Yep.
And she's like, just hug me right now. And I was looking for this like gesture, and
Sure.
she's like, just hold me for a minute.
Yep. And off those lines, because you said that, and I was like, oh my gosh, it's so true. Because I think part of the dynamic in the formula of that, of just keep showing up, all of it, is showing up and continuing to push into the pain. Because I think for so long, I was like, oh my gosh, if that's that bad thing there, or that's wrong, or we stay away from that. We attach to something else. We go. Where I think I'm learning, I'm like, oh no, it's actually through the pain, through the grossness, through the messiness, that is actually life. Like that's where it is. We're so
everything.
Long, we avoid it, and we think, and in the Christian circles, you could label it sin, you could label it suffering, you can right. I think every person has their thing, and for so long, it's like, nope, we avoid where you're actually like, what is going on in me that's causing that, or wanting that, or whatever. And it's actually through that. I got to go through it and not just say, that's wrong. We're going to turn this way and white knuckle our way to be better.
Just hold on
and to
it.
run
Yes.
and to go. It's actually facing it.
Yeah.
And
the
that
beauty
make sense?
the beauty of marriage is you hold hands with somebody and you go, let's go through this together.
Yes.
We're headed through it.
I think for so long, it's I could identify the hard and be like, oh, that's it. Okay. Yeah. Well, let's work on that. Let's work on that. But I think it's even 2 layers deeper, where it's like, no, we're going to go through that. And through it. Yeah. I think I just had this avoidance of not just the hard, I feel like that even sounds like, oh, it's just the hard, we can avoid that. It's almost like, oh no, that thing's not okay, and that's wrong, whatever there. So we're just gonna turn our backs and be good and turn that way. Versus being like, that's kind of messy right there. Let's actually sit in that, talk about it, go through it.
I'm always getting asked if there are any new products that I've run across that are changing the game for anxiety, worry, focus, and sleep. And if you've listened to this show, I'm always telling you that technology won't save us because we don't need biohacks. We need to transform our nervous systems through movement, mindfulness, nature, and so forth. And while I still believe in critically important lifestyle changes, I have discovered a new wearable that is literally changing my life and my family's life. I'm wearing it around my ankle right now. And if I didn't know that it was the result of brilliant neuroscientists and technology experts working together, I would think this device came straight out of Hogwarts. It's magic. I'm talking about Apollo, or also known as the Apollo Wearable. You can wear it on your wrist. Like I said, I'm wearing mine on my ankle. You can just clip it to your shirt, and it actively improves your health by transforming and strengthening your nervous system. It doesn't just measure your health and fitness, it changes you for the better. Apollo delivers gentle pulse vibrations that feel like your body is experiencing the rhythm and beats of different songs. These higher vibrations help improve energy and focus, while lowering vibrations reduce stress and help you relax. Since day one, I've experienced less stress, more energy, relaxation, and focus. And get this, my REM sleep improved more than 90% from one night to the next. I know. Since wearing Apollo, I'm a better husband, a better dad, and I can show up better for all of you. And my kids are getting in on the Apollo too. You cannot improve your marriage, your relationship to your kids, or how you show up in your community if you're not sleeping, if you're riddled with anxiety, and if you're not able to focus. Along with making changes about how you choose a non-anxious life, the Apollo Wearable is a game changer that can accelerate your healing journey. Go to apolloneuro.com/Delony or go to apolloneuro.com and use promo code Delony at checkout for 15% off your purchase. It's changing my life, and it can change yours. So I'm going to read a couple of things about you that I got off the internet.
Oh, Lord.
Just kidding.
Is it mean tweets?
No, that would
Read
be super
mean
fun.
Tweets.
You're a multi-time best-selling author. You're an heiress and a co-owner of a $300 million company. I like saying heiress. That sounded fun. You got a very successful show, podcast, YouTube show, whatever. You've got very successful product lines, like things with your name stamped on them, right? And you got 3 amazing kids, and like my kids play like they're great kids, and an amazing husband. So I've watched you as my friend push back on this lie that as a successful working woman / mom, you can have it all, do it all at the same time. Like there's this mom guilt thing, and there's this mom guilt factory.
Yep.
And so many of my callers are in that cycle. And they're on different places, right? How do you, and again, going back to, we were talking about it earlier with marriage, like there's just this illusion, like if I just had this, then, right?
Right.
How do you experience mom guilt? Like when you're not with your kids, you're on a shoot somewhere, or you and I are doing a live event in Minnesota.
Yep.
Part of your body's like, I should be with them.
Yep.
And then when I'm with them, part of you's like, I'm intentionally sacrificing my career right now because I could be doing these interviews. I could be in New York. I could be in LA doing this thing. How do you balance that? Because it's a tornado, right?
Yep. I think I have, and I know not everyone has this, you'd say opportunity, ability. So I recognize that as I say this out loud. I think the season my kids have been in, I have tried to follow, meaning when they were younger, babies and all that, and I'm sure people are like, no, you need the attachment, all this. There was a level of me that I didn't feel as bad. Like I was like, I didn't work crazy hours. I pulled back some, but I like was with them enough, all of it. And then when they started hitting this like preschool to early elementary school days, my mom, like, radar just spiked. And it was when I was pregnant with Charles, and it went out the roof. And I was like, oh, I really want to be home more. Like, whatever. I don't know if it was stage of life of kids.
I'm missing
the
this,
business. Yeah, the busyness. I realized, oh my gosh, I find my desire is shifting. Because my desire was always work and mom, and it was great. And I mean, I went back early from maternity leave with Amelia. I went back like 2 weeks early because I was like, she's great. We got a great girl that was watching her, and I felt great. I was like, I'll go in for a few hours. Like I just was like, it really didn't like shake me to my core. I mean, I was sad at certain points for sure, but when I was pregnant with Charles, I felt this like whoosh, like I can't keep this schedule because at the time, this is before COVID and all that. We were traveling.
Was it kid or was it work?
No, it was more kids.
Okay.
I felt that.
So
more.
you were more like, I'm going to sacrifice this thing I love and I've worked for 15 years for.
To be home more.
Okay.
Yes,
right.
I did. I felt that shift. Yeah.
Okay.
But then what's funny is 6 months later, after Charles was born, COVID hits, and our work, where most people's work died down, some people lost jobs, ours spiked out the wazoo, and every interview I ever wanted was suddenly at my doorstep. And it's like, this show wants you, and this show wants you. Can you come in? Come in. So then I found myself 2 weeks in working more than I had worked even before that, the amount of hours that I was spending. And then I did start to feel this like resentment towards work because I'm like, I'm supposed to be home more. Like I deliberately took a season to be home more. And here I am working more than ever. Like this is opposite of what I was expecting. So yes, I did think like if people would just do a budget, I wouldn't have to come in and like tell people to be on a budget. You know, like I had some of those thoughts, but that died down pretty quick. But I took a season. I mean, really the last, 3 years or so, I've kept the show, I've kept things going work-wise, but I've been home more, and it's felt great. I have tried to follow the seasons of my kids. And now Charles is in school 3 days a week. So what? I'm here on a Wednesday. Like I'm like, oh yeah, I'll come in and do stuff. Like I have opened my schedule more, but I've kind of followed my kids' schedule for that. Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
So yeah, I don't know if all that.
Well, and I'm just thinking to the and you mentioned this earlier as a caveat. I'm thinking of the mom that can't afford to do that.
Yes.
Just can't.
Yes.
Or
yes.
is like whose husband won't allow it or whatever. I don't think guilt is the enemy. I think it's something to feel and acknowledge. And then we go, like we talked about earlier, I think you go through it. I think you do the best you can with what you have.
Yes.
And you acknowledge, yeah, in an ideal, perfect world, this would be the world.
Right.
And the world's not ideal or perfect. So what's the best world we can create with the record that's playing?
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
What world can we create there?
Yep. Yep.
And that may mean that I only get 2 hours a night with my kids after I get off work and get them picked up. We don't have screens in this house because those 2 hours are magic golden time.
Yep.
And do I collapse every night at 8:15? Yep. That's the world we got right now.
Yes.
And you said it best. It's a season because in a few years they're all going to be in school, or a few years they're going to one's going to be in middle school, one's going to.
Yep.
It goes so fast.
And I think too, like I have found with my kids, because when I didn't pull back and I was working more with the 2 girls, I'm like, they're going to be okay.
Yes. Kids are so resilient.
Do you know what I mean? They're going to be okay. And I heard this thing, John, and it just rubbed me the wrong way. And I don't know if it's true, so I'd be curious from like a psychological standpoint. And I can't even remember who it was. It was because it made me feel bad as a mom working when I heard this.
The mom guilt
and
ecosystem,
yeah. And it was like, when you feel guilt leaving your kids, it's your body telling you you're supposed to be with them. You're supposed to be with them. So be with them. Like it was this whole like, it was kind of a moms don't work message. And I was like, I don't like it. I don't like it. But then I'm like, oh my God, what if that's true? What if that's true? Like, is that true? Or is it that we're guilt because of society? Like,
well,
do you know what I mean?
I think there's a difference between supposed to, in this ideal world. I tell people who have to bury their kids, it's not supposed to be this way. Your kids are supposed to bury you. That's the way this is supposed to work. You're not supposed to. And yet here we are, right? This is the world that we got dropped into. And so I actually think they're right, but you shouldn't weaponize that.
That's good.
So I think, whenever I leave, like after I've been on the road for a season and then somebody calls and says, hey, I drew elk tags, let's go elk hunting. And I'm like, sweet. I get on a plane and my body's like, you've been on the road. You should be at home. You're right. Like that feeling is correct.
Yes.
And I'm going to choose to show my kids that dad goes and provides. Dad goes and has fun with his friends. Dad's got a gang, right?
Yeah.
So I'm going to pick this one.
That's good. It's supposed to, but I'm a single mom and I have to work 2 jobs.
I have to work.
Like, what do you do?
Yes. So in an ideal world, this would be the way this is.
Yes.
And I would say the gift you give to people is, and this is something I've taken infinitely more seriously than before I started here. And you give moms a picture of a different way it could look like. Because so many, and I do too, I hear so often, okay, my dad didn't show up. My mom was all over the place. I want it to be different, but it's like trying to explain what basketball is. And then they walk out on a court. They've never seen a game played. They've never seen a ball dribbled.
Yep.
And then you expect them to just go play.
Yep.
That's hard.
Yep.
And you got 2 little kids in school and work. I think the influencer thing can sometimes get a bad rap. I think it's a problem. No, but I think it can get a bad rap if it's used to, hey, I'm going to show you a picture of, in your head, you probably think, Rachel Cruze is out in Paris right now. This is me with my kids on a Saturday with sidewalk chalk. This is what this looks like.
Yep.
And you give moms permission to go, oh, God, I thought I was failing them by throwing pine cones at each other. And it's like, right. This is what it is, right? This is what it is.
Yes.
And so, anyway, I love the conversation.
It is so hard,
it's
though,
hard.
and I feel it for moms. And again, that's one of the, and I use this example a lot even in my show with my content with MoneyWise, because I do talk to moms that are like, oh my gosh, I want to be free from all this financial like obligation with debt that we have, because if I did, I would probably choose something different, right? And so like that's an example we use a lot with moms and families, is like, especially a nuclear family. It's like, that could be a motivation to get out of debt. And then you talk to some moms that are like, oh yeah, regardless of my options, I still choose this work because I love it. And right, and that would be me. Like, I mean, I'm like, I genuinely enjoy my job and I love it. And it gives me an outlet. It gives me something else. And so that's healthy too, right? So I'm like, you can hold both.
Well, I think of
It's
my
such a
mom,
personal thing.
who was a stay-at-home mom, and I got such a gift from that.
Yes.
Or she worked part-time.
Yeah.
And then part of my life was the mom who went back to college and became this guru at Deloitte and Touche, and then became this professor that travels the world. And that was a huge benefit.
Right.
And so it's both and.
Yes, that's right. That's right. Yeah. But it's hard. It's hard for anyone. I know.
And so maybe the meta lesson here is, if it's hard and you feel like something's wonky, yes.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Like, it's not trying to solve for this is hard.
Right.
It's trying to solve for, okay, this is hard. What are we going to do with that?
Yes.
Right?
Yes,
How are we going
that's
to
right.
navigate this?
That's
but
right.
It not being hard isn't an option.
Yep. That's right. It's good.
Hey, I've got some great news for you. You get to choose. Whatever you do, good or bad, moving forward, the choice is yours. And when you're intentional about making good choices, over time they become healthy habits. Like choosing to slow down and make time for a daily practice of prayer and meditation. One thing that helps me every single day is Hallow. Hallow is the #1 prayer app in the world, on planet Earth, and they're giving you 3 free months to get started. And people always say, you got to meditate, you got to pray, you got to have a spiritual life. And for many of us, we don't even know what that means. We don't even know where to start. That's where Hallow steps in. 3 free months to prioritize your mental health, your spiritual health, and be intentional about finding peace through calming music, the lo-fi station that I love, guided prayers, meditations, and more. And Hallow isn't just Catholic. You can tailor the content towards your faith tradition. From scripture readings and prayers to journaling, Hallow makes it easy to practice mindfulness, build a deeper, more meaningful spiritual life, to figure out what you even believe in the first place, and choose peace. And remember, Hallow is giving you 90 days free. Imagine the peaceful habits you can establish in 90 days. Go to hallow.com/Delony today and follow the simple prompts to start your free 90-day trial. That's hallow.com/Delony.
I want to talk about something you talk about a lot.
Okay.
And I want to come up with a new framework. And this is going to get kind of nerdy, and that's okay.
It's good.
Cool? It's okay?
Yes.
All right. I want to talk about comparison.
Okay.
And here's where I want to kind of unpack it. And so I'm going to talk too much.
Mm-hmm.
But you're the comparison guru. Mm-hmm. And I've been trying to dig into the nerd stuff of comparison.
Yes.
And here's what I've come up with. And so by the time we get done going back and forth, I want to land on a new framework about comparison.
Okay.
So we have Teddy Roosevelt, Mark Twain, Dr. Cummings, whoever you say it. Comparison's the thief of joy. It's the death of joy, all that. So I've written this down. So if you're watching this on YouTube, I'm reading some of this. I just want to make sure I get this right. There's a lot of scientific literature, tons, about how comparison, social comparison is the nerd word, is actually wired into us. Comparison is a feature of being an animal, not a problem, not a bug. Mm-hmm. We have such an innate need for connection that we're designed to always be looking for where we stand, rank, and compare. Always be doing this all the time because if our tribe leaves us, we're dead, right? Yep. So wired into us is this idea of, am I over here? Am I over here? Where do I stand? I'm short, I'm tall, I'm big, I'm strong. What's my role? What am I supposed to be doing? So I started to ask myself, if comparison is part of us, wired into us as a feature, not a bug in the system, I also look around and comparison is a thief of joy. It destroys us, right? And so I'm trying to navigate both of them. It's an innate part of us.
Yeah.
And in this current world we live in, it kills us. It destroys our marriages. It destroys everything, right?
Yeah. Uh-huh.
And so you've talked to moms for years. You've talked to men and women for years. You've been having this conversation about comparison. If I lay both of those down, that it's a part of us. It's how we're wired. It's how we're built and designed, and yet it kills us. How does that hit you? Does that hit you as right? Or does that hit you as, where do we get off?
Because I think comparison is I think it's the thing that it's the car we jump in to ride, but when we start to turn on the jealousy routes and the envy routes.
I wrote envy down.
Oh, you did?
That's what I wrote down.
So that's the actual thing that I think destroys us. I think comparison is the thing we get in that leads us there. But comparing, my sweater and her sweater. It's like, oh, mine's cable knit. Hers is, okay, that's cool. That's great. I made a comparison. a literal comparison. But then suddenly when I want what she has and I don't have it, so now I want to get it, that's envy and jealousy. And that's the world that I think takes over. That is bad.
Okay.
That's the problem, I think.
So comparison in and of itself may not be the demon, it's envy.
I think so, because you can't have envy without comparison, right?
I think a starting line is comparison.
Comparison, right.
Yeah.
I don't think you just jump to, I want that. There's a level of like, oh my gosh. Well, especially when it's a person, right? Because you're comparing with another person, another human being. They have something and I want it, whether it's the marriage, the lifestyle, whatever. Like, and again, I think there can be I want that. And I'm still good with myself and content. And maybe that's something I strive for. That's a fun job.
Yeah.
I would love to do that one day. Right? Like there's like, that's not jealousy.
All right, the last one is, and you wrote an amazing book about it. Let me grab it.
An amazing book. Sweet little book. Look at that. Sweet book.
So my wife is a children's literature aficionado, right? And I don't fully understand how smart she is, but I know that she taught teachers how to teach kids how to read. She's like a literacy person. And she's a huge proponent of children's literature and how pictures are reading. And turning the pages is actually technology. And it's a path for kids' neural connections to begin to develop, right? So you can read a book like this, and you can read a book like this when you're a young one, right?
Yeah.
And there's some really clear scientific literature that says you want to set your kids apart over an arc of their life, read to them when they're young. So when you said, hey, I'm putting out a children's book, I was super excited about it. And then, of course, this is just so magical and beautiful. A lot of this, it's called I'm Glad for What I Have. But you talk about what I think is the antidote for envy. The antidote for all of this is gratitude. Being grateful for what you got. Right? And not being ambitious, not having dreams for the future, but being able to stay right now.
And contentment.
I'm so blessed. Contentment. So talk to me about contentment.
There's like a sense of just peace that we're okay. Like we can have nice stuff. We don't have to have nice stuff. Like regardless of what's going on around us, there's just this level of where we are settled, we're going to find happiness and joy in that. It's kind of what we were talking about earlier, but for me, that's what it is.
It's a choice.
Yeah, and the stuff may come and go, but regardless of that, it's beyond that, is how are you feeling? What's your state of your heart? Like, where are you at? So.
Would you agree that that's something you practice?
Yes. Oh, I think so.
It's like a skill.
And gratitude, I think, is part of that, right? I think being grateful for what you have leads into that contentment. But it's a choice. I'm like, but there's a level of like, I have to choose this. And sometimes it comes easier than others. And I feel like that's the fun part when it does become like, oh, no, okay, we're good. Like they're over here doing this X, Y, and Z, or the new Suburban pulls in, but I got my minivan. I'm good.
But you can go over there and be like, this car is amazing.
Yeah, be excited for people. Oh, sure.
And that doesn't mean you hate your car.
No.
And you can go home and be like, I want to have that Suburban one day. Cool, let's put the work in. Let's figure out what that would look like, right?
Sure, yeah.
Our marriage isn't going to change if we have that Suburban, just so we know.
Right. It's good. But yeah, so the kids' book, I was excited about it because I have, 4, 6, and 8-year-old at home. And like bedtime stories. It's a thing. And I always love the books that have like a message at the end that I'm like, as a parent, I'm like, oh, that was so good to hear. So I wanted that. I wanted it to be short. I wanted it to rhyme. I wanted to have animals. So I had this like whole dream. And contentment, is for me a huge message for my kids because I'm a natural spender. I'm the one that can be the like, oh my gosh, I'm going to accumulate because it's fun and I love it.
Jeez.
And my kids started to be like, where's the Amazon guy? Like, like they started asking questions. I was like, oh no, I've turned them into me. So I wanted a book just to walk them through the story of like, hey, you want new toys, you want all of this stuff. And it's not right or wrong, right? There's not like a moral compass to this stuff. But at the end of the day, can we understand that the stuff is not the thing that's going to fulfill us? And so that was the message I wanted to put in. And and there's a spiritual element at the end of God. And we've talked about this, but having a higher power, choosing to look beyond yourself and attaching yourself to something else besides just you is really healthy. So for me, it's God and it's in the book. But for other people, maybe something else, which is fine. But that's another big thing that I'm like, when we become our own gods, like that's when life gets messy. I think you've talked about this a lot, which I think is so, I think it was you when I was hearing it, I was like, that is so right. That's it. Like that's so right.
I like to think of it like the more I stare at my own belly button, I can only go in a spiral, I can only go in a quick spinning spiral.
Yep.
It's when I pick my head up.
Yes.
And beyond that, picking my head up, I also, my hands are coming up right now if you're not watching this, but it's this sense of I don't control anything.
Yep.
I don't control anything.
Yep.
And I'm going to be grateful for where I got put. And because I happen to live in this little sliver of history, I have an opportunity to maybe earn some more money, or maybe I can do some neat things professionally or whatever. But I'm going to be grateful for what I got.
Yep.
And yes, comparison's wired into me. I'm going to look to my right and my left and make sure I'm treating my wife right, make sure my kids are healthy and somewhat developmentally appropriate. But I'm also not going to just walk around envious of, I wish I had that. And I can't believe they have that. They don't deserve that.
Yes.
I'm not going to live like that.
Yep.
I'm going to choose to open my hands up and look up and say, thank you.
Yep.
And
right.
please give me some rain tomorrow.
Yes.
Right?
Yep.
And it just, my whole body just, even just saying that out loud, my body just goes, right?
It's like restful. Yes.
Yeah,
There's like
it's
peace
peace.
in that.
It's peace, yeah.
Totally.
Cool. Well, thanks for coming to hang out.
I know.
You're
Thanks
awesome.
for having me on. Appreciate it.
And for those of y'all watching, this conversation we just have all the time. It's just, y'all get to hear it. So cool.
I know. So
appreciate
fun.
you. You're awesome.
Cheers.
Hey, what's up? Delony here. Listen, you and me and everybody else on the planet has felt anxious or burned out or chronically stressed at some point. In my new book, Building a Non-Anxious Life, you'll learn the 6 daily choices that you can make to get rid of your anxious feelings and be able to better respond to whatever life throws at you so you can build a more peaceful, non-anxious life. Get your copy today at johndelony.com. All right, we are back. Thanks for hanging out and listening to my conversation with Miss Rachel Cruze. All of her books and show info and everything will be in the comments section. I mean, it will be where it will be down below in the whatevers.
Yeah, it'll be
Linked,
below in the thing.
Linked in a place at the thing where we can get all of her stuff and whatnots. And Jenna, I should have pointed out that you cheat on me with her show too.
Actually, I was with her first.
Oh, so I'm the
you're
other
the
guy?
other woman. Yep.
I'm the other woman. Yes. Excellent. All right, Kelly. So we're going to wrap up today's show with Am I the Problem? Let's do this.
All right. And first, before we start, people, we need your Am I the Problem emails. So please send those to ask@johndelony.com. Is that right?
JohnDelony.com/ask. ASK.
Yeah,
there you go.
Not to the email address. Go there, put Am I the Problem like in the first line.
You guys can see what a great producer I'm working with. She doesn't even know where we are.
They know what I have to deal with.
Here we go.
They know.
All right.
So send in your emails, please. Keep them short, but we need some more. All right. This is from Lynn in Mission, Texas. Am I the problem? My husband procrastinates when doing yard work, cleaning up after himself, repairing things, or cleaning areas of the house, his workbench in the garage, etc. That he says are his responsibility. I don't like to nag, so instead of asking him repeatedly, sometimes I just go and do it myself, especially when the backyard gets very overgrown, like 2 feet or more. But then when he comes home and sees that I did it, he gets really mad. I feel like he wants to do it on his time or in his terms, or he's not happy. Am I the problem?
No, he is the problem. You are seeing a need and you are then waiting longer because your husband has a fantasy that he's fulfilling in his mind, and he's the guy that takes care of the house. He is not. He's the guy that talks about taking care of the house and then never does it. And so you have to wade through a 2-foot-tall Texas backyard. I've had to do that. It's the worst. You are not the problem. You are solving the problem that your husband is creating. If he gets mad, it's because you've exposed his fantasy land. So, no, keep it up. Keep doing what you got to do because nobody else is doing it. Somebody's talking about it a lot, but they're not doing anything. You are not the problem. What do you think, Kelly?
Yeah, 100%. My husband, he'll do that. I mean, it's always like, it's never intentional. It's always like, I'm going to do that thing, and then things just happen.
Yep.
And then I'll go by and do it. But he never handles it poorly. He's always like, man, I know that took me forever. I'm so glad you took care of it. Sorry about that. Like in our case, what we did was he didn't have time. The lawn, we were having a problem, so we hired somebody.
Yeah.
Because it was worth the bit of money to have the sanity back and to take the problem out of the marriage.
That's right.
And so he could devote time to, hey, I'd really rather be doing these other house projects or whatever. Great. So we'll hire somebody.
So I think the problem here is that your husband is using his shame as a weapon on you. He's embarrassed. He wants to be the guy that does the yard. He doesn't have the courage to say, hey, I need to offload this. We need to hire somebody. Or y'all are in a financial position where you can't afford to hire somebody. Cool. Now, if he's working 3 or 4 jobs and he's just crushing it, but he also wants to be the guy that does this too, cool. Y'all need to have like a come to Jesus conversation, a truth-telling conversation. You are doing so much for our family that I'm going to take this from you. The problem is he's not having that honest conversation for whatever reason. So, yes, you're doing a great job. You're not the problem. He needs to get with the program. Good?
Yep, 100% agree.
All right. Hey, everybody. Thanks for joining us. Come back and see us next time on the Dr. John Delony Show. Don't do drugs. Bye.